Hello, everybody. It's Greg Harrelson here with my co-host Abe Safa, and we are just doing what we do every Tuesday, coming to you with some good information, or hopefully you think it's good information. And today we're going to talk about ways to add people to your CRM, how to build that database. I think everybody would like to have a bigger database. But before we get started, Abe, thank you again for joining me and making sure that technically we are connected.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope everybody out there had a great Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Did you you were at home, I think, all weekend, right? Is that right?
I was, yes.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of running?
Yeah, I ran a good bit, and then just other than that, it was low key, a little bit of
Yeah.
work, but
Watch some
nothing major.
watch some Formula One. If anyone hasn't started if
Yeah,
on Netflix, if somebody wants to watch something, Abe and I have gotten all, and Brendan have gotten all into this Formula One show on Netflix, and we got addicted to it. I'm almost done, and now all of a sudden, Abe's watching Formula One every Sunday, I think.
this past race was so good Sunday. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, well, let's dive into it. So we're talking about ways to build CRM. Before we get into like the tactics and sharing with you some tactics, we just I want to remind everybody that in real estate, we need to think as business people. Okay, as business people, as real estate professionals, the one thing that we possess or should possess that has tangible value, meaning you could get an appraiser to come in, not your typical appraiser that's going to appraise your houses, but there's appraisers out there, business appraisers that assess the value of different components of your business, one being your database. There are no doubt you can have your database appraised, and they'll give you a value. Now, in our business, in real estate, you have to ask yourself, what other things besides real estate holdings, what else do you have in your real estate business, in your practice, that has a value that could be appraised, that we could call an appraiser right now, and they would come in and assess a value of what that is worth? CRM is the only thing that I can really think of. Now, there could be a little bit more, but the CRM is the only thing that I can really think of that has real value. Now, your knowledge, it has value, but how are you going to get an appraiser to come in and assess the value of your knowledge? Your scripts, maybe you have good conversation, maybe you have good marketing, postcards and things like this, but what is the real value of that? So in real estate, the number one asset that we possess is our database, or the people in our CRM. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're constantly adding to that CRM. But what I get across the country with agents all the time is, well, how do I find people to put the CRM? Most people think the only way to build a database is to buy leads. Now, you can buy leads to build a database, and that is something that Abe and I do. But you can go beyond that. So for people that are out there, maybe you don't have a budget to buy leads, we're going to talk about some ways that you can build your database. So Abe, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. So that's a great point, Greg. It being a valuable asset, but even more importantly, it's a good source of generating business. Right.
Good
Yeah.
point.
If you want life to get easier for you year after year, as your CRM, as your database grows, you're going to get more inbound calls, whether it's buyers or sellers. So it's to your best interest to just be building this and constantly adding people to it. So first and foremost is actually starting one, right? I mean, if you've got a brand new CRM, you're in Real Geeks or just started, or you don't have many people in there, start with all your contacts. Just go into your cell phone and everybody that every single contact that's in your cell phone, export that list and then import it into your CRM or into Real Geeks at that point. And that should be your starting base. That should be your foundation. So every one of us has a bunch of people, friends, family, co-workers, ex-workers, whatever it may be, that are in our phone book, in our phones right now, that it's just a couple of minutes of exporting it into a CSV file, a couple of clicks, and then there you go. You've got them into your Real Geeks account at that point. And then from there, of course, just like every other person that you're going to put into CRM, it's what you do with it that's going to matter, right? So you want to make sure if they're property owners that you find out where they live, put in a safe market report for them, a community report for them, and then if it's someone that doesn't own a property, have them in there and potential buyers down the road. So I would start off there. I think that would be the first step, is export everybody that's in your cell phone.
Yeah.
My cell phone.
Yeah. A lot of people, Abe, are probably going to wonder how to do that. Do you, how would you do that if you were going to export your contacts off your phone right
Yeah,
now?
I mean, for me, it's super easy because I've been using Google for so long. So everything that's in my phone automatically syncs to Google. So if you have a Gmail account, your contacts will sync automatically. So you can just go into your Gmail on your computer, on your desktop, go into your contacts, and then export that list. If you're not using Gmail, using something else, Android or whatever else that you use that don't have access to Gmail, whatever it may be, then there's software out there that you can purchase that'll just export the CSV, and it's like, I think it's like $1, real cheap
Yeah.
software.
Yeah, just go to your app store. So for
Yeah,
those of you
exactly.
listening, go to your app store, and you could search for apps that perform. You just search contacts to CSV or contacts to Excel. There'll be a dozen apps that you can purchase, and they're under a couple dollars, one-time fee, and they'll actually pull all of your contacts out. But you can do it for free, the way that Abe just described it. Now, I'll take it one step further. That a lot of times, what's going to happen when you export everything out of your cell phone, then a lot of times you only have one piece of data on that person. So, like, you may have their cell number. Most likely you always have their telephone numbers. Okay. What a lot of times is missing is email addresses. So you may export all that information into a spreadsheet, and then it'll be all the data fields will be in a column. So you'll notice that in the column of telephone number, you'll have the majority of the people will have something in there. But then in the column of email addresses, it's highly likely that you won't have all of the email addresses for every contact that you have in your phone. This poses an opportunity for you. What you do then is you take all the people that you have no email from, you have no email for them, and then you text them. You just say, "Hey, Greg Harrelson here. Just wanted to touch base with you. I wanted to send you something via email about the real estate market. What is it? But I noticed I don't have your email. I only have your telephone number. What's the best email for you?" You just use that script right there, and dozens and dozens of people will be texting back with their email addresses. Then you take those email addresses, and then you manually put them in that spreadsheet. Now you've got names, telephone numbers, email addresses, and then from there you can turn around and import that into your CRM. Now, what do you do with it when you import in your CRM? Number one, I would be calling them. They're your centers of influence. If you've taken the time to put them in your cell phone, then they're more than just a stranger. Typically, they're more than just a stranger. So then from there, you could go a couple routes. You could have a virtual assistant look them all up to see if they own property, and then go also add their address to the CRM, or if at the minimum, set them up on a market activity report if they own. If they don't own, then you can actually call them and see if they've thought about purchasing. But most of the people will be owners. This is a way you can build that CRM. So I'll get off of that one. I took a little too much time on that one, but I was afraid that there would be too many questions or unanswered questions.
Let me add one more thing before you go to number two. If you've got a bunch of people on your phone and the list was too long and you don't want to text each one individually, you can just get and upload them to Real Geeks. And then what you would do is run a search, do an advanced search for every email, every lead that has blank for an email. So at that point, it'll filter out all the ones with no email addresses. You can create a workflow with just one text message, and then just kick off one workflow, and then that'll hit them all. That'll make life a whole lot easier if you want to do it that way.
Dude, that's just perfect. That's exactly what you should do. Forget everything I said a little bit earlier about texting everybody. Just do that. Use the workflow to make that happen. So that's a good one. Here's a number two, a second one that I thought of, when we were putting our notes together for today's show, is, listen. You're the owner of your company or broker manager of your company. That company has had agents probably at some point leave their company and go to some other company, or maybe go out of business. And they did deals. There are files that in your company where there have been closed transactions, and I would look at the buyer side closed transactions, people that were buyers that closed the transaction and the agent no longer works at the company. I bet you way more often than not, nobody's working those leads anymore. Nobody's servicing that past client business. And you go to your broker manager and ask them, say, hey, look, could you pull a list of all the buyer side transactions that closed within the last 4 or 5 years in our office, but the agent that actually worked with that buyer is either not in the business or no longer in the company? And ask them for that and tell them, hey, look, here's what I'll do. I will give them a call, and I'll just touch base with them and let them know that we were the company that helped them purchase the property, and that you were looking through the files and noticed that no one had contacted you in a while, and just wanted to touch base to see if there's anything you can do for them, and strike a relationship with them. Basically what that is like an adopt a buyer program. You're adopting the buyer of somebody else that's no longer in the company. Now, the company manager and broker should like this because they have all these deals and that they could potentially, as a company, revitalize and get referrals off of, or get future deals off of that. That'd be another source. I bet you there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, depending on how far you go back and how big your company is. There could be thousands of people that have already trusted your company enough to do a transaction, and now they've been neglected. All you have to do, get those files, the contact information's in there, give them a call. Y'all have done business with them in the past. Rekindle, re-engage that conversation, put them in your database. You already know what property they own. Every single one of those should be in a market activity report or a sold report, getting using the technology behind Real Geeks in the back end to nurture them. So there's another way. And listen, I don't think there's anything that we're going to say that's paid. We're going to give you 7 minimum, and the 7 will be free. Now, paid is very effective. You could go to Real Leads and have them start generating buyer leads for you. Extremely effective. So that's another way. What else we got?
Yeah, that one's golden, Greg, especially 4 to 5 years ago of buyers. I mean, those guys have some crazy appreciation over the last 4 or 5 years. Many of those are sellers right now if they haven't sold already. So you probably missed out on some, but it's never too late to get and capitalize on that. Right. Number 3, focus on just sold calls around a recent sold that you had or your company's at. So if you had a recent sale, pull the data for that community and then give them a call and talk about the sale you just had with them. And look and see, if you've sold it, there was most likely multiple offers, especially the way the market has been right now. There was most likely other buyers looking in that community as well. So this is a great opportunity to engage that community and call them and look for potential people that want to sell right now. So not only are you going to be able to find some potential business right now, at the same time, while you have them on the phone, if they're not interested in selling, that's okay. Get their email address, put them into Real Geeks, set them up on a community report and a safe market report, and then now you're building a business. Now you're building a database. So you got your cell phones already, a couple of hundred people in there probably. Now you've got your past buyers from the broker that no one's calling. Now you start adding on circle prospecting or just sold or whatever you want to call them from these specific communities that you sold. That's a good way. Now you're really growing that database. And then also, I mean, that'd be a good way to start dominating that community. So if you start seeing some good results, you get another sale out of there, then a third sale, and before you know it, you start to dominate that community.
Yeah,
that's a great way to start.
That's a good one. It's like you go and get a listing, however you get that listing in that community, and you get it sold. I'm old school. I recommend you actually put a just sold rider on that sign. So let's everybody know that's driving through the community, other property owners, that you successfully sold that property. Then you go in and you call around that community and you find another listing and you get another sign and another sold rider, and then call them again and get another listing. Next thing you know, you become a household name in that community. And the entire time that you're actually communicating with these people, you're asking them for their email address, you're putting them all in your CRM, And now you're sending them market activity reports, nurturing them. Then you look on the live feed and you start to see, oh, wow, these people are starting to look at these, open up these market activity reports and look at them. Now what you're doing is you're building, again, you're building yourself to be top of the mind awareness, household name. And then when you call them, they start saying, hey, Greg, oh yeah, great. I saw that other house that you sold. The conversations get really good. And that's what Abe's talking about when it comes to dominating. The next one here is open houses. Now, I know a lot of people, there's a couple things when you say open houses right now, especially for the last 2 years, people say, well, gosh, by the time I schedule an open house, the property's already sold. I get it. I do get that. And, but there's a possibility that that's not the case today. You know, a lot of times we put on a property today and it does take a couple weeks to sell versus it taking a couple hours to sell. Now, it depends on your market. Some people are going to say, yes, that's my market. Some people are going to say, oh, no, mine's still hot and it still sells immediately. I got it. But ways to build your CRM for free is to find some properties to hold an open house in. These people come into the, they come into the open house. And let's just say you had 10 people come into the open house. One of them is probably a real buyer. Maybe 2 of them are a real buyer, like immediately. And then 8 of them are real buyers, but they just may be in a different phase. Remember, there's the dreaming phase, the exploratory phase, and the buying phase. If I was to take 10 buyers, I bet you 2 of them are in the buying phase. Probably, you know, 4 of them are in the exploratory phase, and then maybe 4 of them are in the dreaming phase. But it really doesn't matter what phase that they're in, because the exploratory and the dreaming phase, those 2 phases, those are the people that need to be in your CRM. The people that are in the buying phase, those are the people that need to be following you around looking at properties. So, you know, you could go in and take, say, do 1 open house a week, do 1 every other week, and add probably 10 buyers to your database. There's another one.
Yeah, you touched on something that was really important. And I think a lot of agents get caught up where they feel like that they should only have good quality leads that are ready to buy now.
Mm.
You can't. It's impossible to do that. And that's the whole point of a database is people are going to be in different stages of the buying or selling cycle, right? They're going to be all over the place. And the whole idea of having a big CRM or a big database is you've got people across the whole spectrum of stages. And then based on their activity within Real Geeks, based on what you're monitoring, based on the conversations you have with them, you get a never-ending stream of people ready to buy or ready to sell when it's time for them to buy or sell. And just kind of let them do their own thing, and you just monitor their activities and just be there for when they need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the next thing, number 5 is what's my home worth ads? I mean, these are we've been doing really well, you and I, with these. It's incredible. In our Real Geeks Mastery coaching program, we've been showing our agents in there how to take that to the whole next level, where it's really super targeted on what communities you go after, what data you use to target those people, and we're getting some amazing results. But even if you're not in that program, you should be running what's my home worth ads right now on Facebook and wherever you can. It's just generate. Again, it's just a way to keep building that database. Right. The whole idea is you every single day looking for today business. And then when you come across people that aren't ready today, you add them to the database. And this is just one other source that you're constantly just adding to that CRM.
Yeah. And the cool thing is it's all automated, right? Once you do the Facebook ad or you post that out there, people are opting in. So they're adding this, which is really good. That's a higher quality ad. If people are giving you their information, putting it into your CRM and requesting, or I should say, they're going to be receiving that thing automatically. So it's just kind of one of those things that you can set up and you can automatically start getting leads. I mean, we're getting literally between Abe and I, we're adding hundreds of people, at least over 200 people to our database just by the What's My Home Worth ad every single month. So that's 2,400 property owners that we're adding on a yearly basis at a minimum. I think it's much higher than that. I'm just trying to be conservative and, and know that I'm, shooting kind of low on that number. but that's significant. And if you're asking, yes, but are they any good? We do very well financially off of the what's my home worth, because we wouldn't be doing it. We monitor everything. And Abe mentioned Real Geeks Mastery, coaching. If you're interested in coaching and learning on a deeper level how to master the system, or if you're just interested in coaching on general real estate, reach out to us. I suggest that you just private message or direct message Abe or I, and we can give you a little bit more information. So whether it's just general coaching that you're interested, or Real Geeks Mastery, we're basically in the Real Geeks Mastery program. We're not only teaching you on CRM, but we're also coaching on current events and what's going on to help you build your business. So direct messages, and we'd love to talk with you about that. The other one is, this is an old strategy. Gosh, did we used to build a big list. And so bear with me when I say it, because you're probably, I can already hear what everyone's going to say. Oh, there's none of those in our market, but there is. Okay. It's advertise a free list of foreclosures. Now, I understand there is not nearly as many foreclosures in any MLS across the country as there were back in 2008, 9, and 10. I get it. But here's the key. There is a ton of consumers that would just love to see any foreclosures that might be on the market. Now, maybe, and I say see a list. So maybe there's only 10, maybe there's only 15, and maybe it's across all price points and different property types. Maybe it's a residential home, a lot, a mobile home. It really doesn't matter what it is. If you want to build your database with people that are interested in something around real estate, buying or selling, then go ahead and put out there on Facebook for a free list of foreclosures. Either direct message me, give me your contact information, and I'll email it to you. Or you could actually build a page on your website and pull in all the foreclosures. Again, I know there won't be many, but there'll be a few. Build a page on your Real Geeks website for like Myrtle Beach foreclosures, for instance, and then have people going and post, and then post that link on there so you can drive traffic to your website, and then have it set up where they have to opt in. They have to actually, maybe they get to see one property, and then after that, they have to register for your website. Right now, with interest rates going up, people are asking, I wonder if there's going to be foreclosures. Like there's kind of, people are just at the brink of like thinking about, I wonder if there's some distressed properties. Now that interest rates went up, the economy's down, or talk of recession, talk of inflation, there's some foreclosures. See, the consumer has a listening for it. Be the first in your market to go ahead and offer access to that information. I really believe people are going to flock to the page if you do that. Now there's, again, free traffic for your website. What's the last?
There's no question about it, Greg. There's always demand for foreclosures and short sales. There's always going to be demand for foreclosures and short sales. So even if you advertise it like, okay, we know there's not money out there, but when they start coming, be the first to know. Right. Even if you advertise it that way.
Yeah.
It literally takes you like 3 minutes to create the page. Yeah. And then you have the IDX feed from Real Geeks, and it's just like, and that's it, you're done. And then you're collecting leads forever with that one page. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. We don't have to act like there's thousands. Yeah. It's not like, oh my gosh, look how long this list is. You've got to get this free list. Just say, hey, a lot of people are talking about foreclosures. They're starting to enter back into the market. There's not a lot, but be the first to know the next one that comes on the market, and then boom. Because once you have that page, then every time a foreclosure hits your market, you don't have to update it. The IDX just constantly updates. So it's a real-time page. That's the way you do it.
Okay. Last but not least, add every single lead that you ever get to your CRM. And this is where I see a lot of agents slip. It's kind of repetitive what we talked about, but we need to dive deeper into it, because you're talking to people all the time. You have them on the phone. You meet them in person. Just ask for the email. Every single person you talk to that's a potential buyer, okay? And every single person that owns a property, you should always ask for an email and then put them into your database. That's one of the best ways to do it, because we're all out there, we're all busy, we're all talking to people, we're all meeting the people, so we have access to these buyers and sellers. It doesn't take but a couple of seconds to get their email address, and now you really start supercharging that CRM and building it.
Yeah, an example is we may have a listing, okay, and then a buyer calls us direct, or sometimes they'll text us. They'll call us or text us direct and say, "Hey, I need some information on that on that property that I saw that you have a sign on." Maybe they call off your sign or something like that, or and we end up talking with them, and we start working with them, and we go out and show that property, but that person never gets into our CRM. And that's what we're really talking about here. Like, there are things that don't come through Real Geeks. You have opportunities that are generated outside of Real Geeks, outside of your CRM. And what I've seen with real estate agents, if it doesn't originate with their CRM, it hardly ever gets back into their CRM.
Yeah, so there is a way to add a lead. Yeah.
Yeah, you can manually add a lead, right? Yeah, but I just don't see people adding a lot, right? And they love the leads that come in through the CRM. They love the other leads that don't. There's a disconnect. And so all we're saying here is, don't forget to manually add every single lead that you get that does not automatically come through your CRM. And when you combine these 7 things that we just shared with you, I mean, right here, gosh, everybody could be adding at least 1,000 people to their CRM this year. And that's a minimum. Everybody could add 1,000 people to your CRM fairly easily if you just work these systems. And then over time, you actually will start to get business from it. And it'll prove to be a huge ROI, huge return on your investment. All right. Anything else, Abe?
No, that's it, Greg.
Okay. Well, just again, thank you, everybody. If you have any comments, please put them in the chat section, and Abe and I will definitely, look at those from time to time and see if we can answer any of your questions. Also, just remember, please direct message us, call us, or direct message us if you have any questions regarding our coaching program. We'd love to help you get to the next level. All right, Abe, thank you so much.
Take care, Greg.